Dear friends, let us continue our event. Thank you everybody. My name is Jüri Luik. I'm the director of the ICDS. I would like to welcome our guests, Mr. President, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen. I'm both honored and happy to introduce our keynote speaker. One of the high points of our conference has always been Lennart Meri lecture, a way to remember our former president and also appreciate his sharp and precise style. We were saddened to hear that one of the very old friends of President Meri, President Mauno Koivisto, has passed away yesterday evening. We know how respected he was in Finland and globally, and our deepest condolences go to the Finnish people. The shared cultural heritage and history has bound Estonia and Finland together. That also goes for our statehood. Finland is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and we thought it would be only appropriate to ask a Finnish speaker to be our keynote speaker, to chart the way forward in Europe and in global affairs. I'm extremely proud and happy that our speaker at the Lennart Meri lecture today will be the President of the Republic of Finland, Sauli Niinistö. President Niinistö is well known in Estonia as a friend of Estonia and a very experienced statesman. He was leader of the center-right Finnish Kokoomus Party, has served several times as member of the Finnish government, also deputy prime minister, and also as vice president of the European Investment Bank. His wealth of foreign policy expertise is known to everybody in this hall. You are also, Mr. President, one of the few heads of state who frequently meets with the president of our neighbor, Mr. Putin. Estonia and Finland are so close that Estonia is omnipresent in Finnish media. President Niinistö, I know, is often asked to comment on Estonian-Finnish relationship, and his comments are read with keen interest both on the other side and here. So I'm particularly happy that the President has agreed to join us here at the Lennart Meri conference, which is a venue for plain speaking and new ideas, and share with us thoughts about the world issues and main traits of Finnish foreign policy. I'm also glad that the President has kindly agreed to take a couple of questions after his presentation. So let me help to welcome the President of the Republic of Finland, Mr. Sauli Niinistö. Thank you, Mr. President.
Madam President, participants of the conference, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank for this invitation. I'm very honored to deliver this keynote. Lennart Meri was an exceptional individual. He lived a remarkable life during a very difficult time in Estonian history, and he left a lasting mark well beyond his own country. He was a man of keen intellect with a good sense of humor, and he never missed an opportunity for a debate. This conference is a fitting tribute to his memory. Today, I speak also in honor of another great statesman, President Mauno Koivisto, who passed away last night. When he, as a young soldier, heard that the war had ended, he got out of the trenches carrying his gun and thought to himself, there must be another, more peaceful way of dealing with one's neighbors. His actions towards that goal are a legacy for us to uphold. Today, I want to touch upon two issues. Firstly, I will give an overview to the security dynamics in Europe and highlight how Finland is seeking to uphold European security. Secondly, I will underline the Arctic as a global concern. To begin with, I take it that we can all agree that Europe is not as stable and secure as we would like it to be. We are forced to admit that the post-Cold War promise of stable and prosperous Europe without dividing lines has not been achieved. Increased tensions, arms races, and rise of terrorism show no signs of abating. Many say that geopolitics is back. Indeed, hard words have been followed with hard actions. Military activities and build-up are increasing, and military operations and exercises are conducted in previously unseen ways. Threat perceptions also include asymmetric threats such as hybrid and cyber. Even the very foundations of our democracy, elections, have been targeted with malign intentions. There is no denying that European security is driven by deep mistrust. Our joint cooperation platform, the OSCE, struggles as key commitments have been breached. The annexation of Crimea by Russia was a heavy blow. Finland is steadfast in defending the principles and structures underlying European security and stability. We have also taken steps to enhance our own security. We are investing into our armed forces, in particular by enhancing readiness and rapid reactions. We are passing new legislation to ensure that we have all the means necessary to protect ourselves. We also contribute to increasing our common resilience towards hybrid threats. We want to send a strong signal that we take security very seriously. We work closely with our partners in NATO, and our bilateral defense cooperation with Sweden is progressing very rapidly. For Finland, the EU is of particular relevance. I have been raising EU defense cooperation to the debate for over a decade. My starting point is this. The EU is hardly a true union if it does not play its part in ensuring the security of its own citizens. For many EU members, NATO is the primary forum for collective defense, and rightly so. But there's a great deal we can do together under the banner of protecting Europe. I'm confident that succeeding in this task is important for the EU, also in the eyes of our citizens. Security is an area where the publics have expectations towards the Union. There has been a major shift in the EU's orientation towards defense. There was a time when the Commission did not even dare to say the word aloud. This changed 2013 when the issue was debated at the European Council and the Commission launched its roadmap on defense. It was also then that the EU decided to start spending money on defense. This year we have seen moves to strengthen the EU as a security community. I'm happy to note that at last discussions concerning defense cooperation are bearing fruit. We are close to agreeing on activating permanent structured cooperation, that is PESCO, in defense. Finland fully supports this development and will contribute to the process. But as always, the devil is in details. We need to strike the right balance, be ambitious, but also see the value of inclusiveness. We are a union that, and this should be reflected also in the field of security. We must ensure that the arrangements are and will remain inclusive while bringing concrete steps toward a real value added to the security of ordinary Europeans. Developing key capabilities, enhancing our operational readiness, but importantly so, also our willingness are important. We also need dialogue. Finland has done and will continue to do its share to promote security in Europe. The initiative for Baltic Sea air safety is a manifestation of this. Although the work in the context of International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, is low political, it has been one of the rare occasions for constructive discussions on issues affecting our common security. We need a chain of positive steps to foster confidence and security. This requires, firstly, that we see success in efforts to resolve the many crises of today, particularly Ukraine, Syria, and North Korea. At the same time, we should take a fresh look at a bigger picture that includes technology development, weapons of mass destruction, arms control, and military confidence building measures. Two of the biggest concerns today are the use of chemical weapons in Syria and prospects regarding nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, including in North Korea. We must strictly enforce the Chemical Weapons Convention. These weapons should never be used. It is also important that the nuclear weapon states, in particular the United States and Russia, get back on track in their strategic talks and seek to reduce all types of nuclear weapons. Conventional arms control is also crucial in preventing conflicts, alleviating tensions and building confidence. Since most of the current arms control measures in the OSCE framework were agreed during the Cold War almost 3 decades ago, the toolbox is in need of modernization. Finland welcomes the efforts to promote arms control dialogue, such as the so-called Steinmeier initiative and recently initiated dialogue on security risks and challenges in Vienna. We need more predictability and transparency. We also need to reduce risks and military activities that give rise to concerns. I believe now is the time for a genuine engagement on arms control and confidence building. I readily admit this by no means is not an easy task, but to give up the effort and the outset would be detrimental for European security, the OSCE, arms control regimes, and to our own security interests. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of humanity does not depend on military security only. Finland has just begun its 2 years chairmanship in the Arctic Council. Although the Council has only 8 full members, the Arctic itself is a global concern. The Arctic is a region that puts us face to face with a great dilemma facing humanity. Do we approach the Arctic primarily as a source of economic opportunities, or do we admit that preserving the region's ecosystem is critical to our entire planet? In short, do we put the environment or the economy first? Recently, we have seen mixed signals concerning the topic. On the one hand, the leaders of two largest member states, the United States and Russia, have expressed views that climate change is not due to human action. On the other hand, the Arctic ministerial meeting in Fairbanks earlier this week adopted a declaration that not only acknowledged climate change but also put the attempts at fighting it to the forefront. It is clear that we need to utilize the economic potential of the Arctic, but do it in a manner that is sustainable. At the same time, we must take the tackling of climate change a priority. I would recommend approaching the issue from the perspective of black carbon, an accelerator of glacier melting. Old energy plants in the neighborhood of the Arctic are causing heavy pollution due to incomplete burning. And then we have flaring, a process almost impossible for a layman to understand, where excess gas is burnt off on a production site. Around the world, flaring wastes 40 times more gas yearly than Finland consumes. I believe that a neutral zone for cooperation can be found from combating these two sources of emissions. Doing so would not interfere with the interests spent on economic exploitation. On the contrary, refitting plants would create business opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, Estonia will begin its first EU presidency in July. It is an important position at a very challenging time. I'm confident that the Estonian presidency will be a success. You can count on Finland's full support in your tasks. I opened this speech with Lennart Meri, and I want to close it with him as well. Speaking in 1999 at an event commemorating the end of the Cold War, he made an important remark. We, and indeed all of Western Europe, have repeatedly stated that we want to have strong and friendly relations with our neighbors. We do not fish, nor do we intend to build up new walls between the European Union and countries east of us. I have no doubt that this vision is the right one. The path ahead will be long and narrow, but there is no feasible alternative. We must also accept that achieving Lennart's vision does not depend only on us, but at least we should ensure that we ourselves are up to the task, ready to ensure our own security as well as foster mutual confidence and trust through dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And we will take a couple of questions.
Suits me fine.
Please, Matt, please state your name and affiliation.
My name is Matt Bryza. I'm a former U.S. diplomat, but in this context, I'm actually on the board of a great Finnish environmental company called Lamor in Porvoo. And I'm wondering, in the Arctic Council, have you had any preliminary discussions, any preliminary feedback from Washington or from Moscow on protecting the maritime environment in the Arctic? And is that an area of possible cooperation?
Thank you. First of all, I step a bit aside from your question. Namely, I know that security, Russia is a lot discussed here today. I just want to tell you that, in my opinion, the Arctic the Arctic environment and destroying it is a lot more greater threat towards humanity than Russia. Okay, then to your question, yes, we are quite active all the time, but like I referred to, I was in Arkangel, where President Putin was also, and well, I kept almost similar speech, and he replied that, well, it's not human-made. So we are quite far away from each other. And what we have heard from Washington is, well, a bit similar. But I believe that in Fairbanks they had quite keen discussions whether to recognize and to which extent the environment and the climate change. And I believe that was a short step forward. So we are doing our best. But I want to underline that, like I said, there's only 8 full members in Council. But what happens in Arctic is a global issue. So, in my opinion, every opinion dealing with the Arctic and climate change there from outside is important.
Conferences like this spend a lot of time speculating about the future, but this year is the 100th anniversary of Finland's foundation, establishment as an independent state. I guess that you're going to spend quite a lot of time talking about that. I wonder if you could say a little in public what reflections you have, and if there are any of your predecessors. I think you have a distinguished line of predecessors that you'd like to say something about.
Well, I have already today said early in the morning in Finland about President Koivisto. I referred also to his thoughts when he realized that war is over, and that is very valuable. I actually don't see any major difference in between my predecessors as far as foreign policy and security questions are dealt. So we have a very stable thinking, and I am quite sure that when Finland has its 200th anniversary of independence, well, they remember also that, well, those boys, and one lady too, that they really continued very logical policies. And here we are in a, well, if you allow me to say, according to many studies, the most stable society in the world.
Andrei Larion of Cato Institute. Mr. President, it has been mentioned that you are relatively frequently meeting Mr. Putin, while some other Western leaders prefer to abstain. Could you share with us what you were able to achieve through all these meetings when other Western leaders were not so actively engaged with Mr. Putin?
First of all, just maybe this is only my thinking, but I do openly everything I do. Is it an answer to you? Partly, maybe. So it has been visible, my contacts with Russia and Russians and President Putin. So now I see, well, sometimes people ask me from other European countries, how you do it? Can you help us? And I also see that a lot of ministers, even heads of states, are visiting nowadays Moscow or Sochi. And maybe we had a turning point in Warsaw when NATO had last summer its meeting there. Namely, all were of the same opinion that we need, or NATO needs, deterrence, and we all need dialogue. In a way, a two-way approach, and with Russia. And that is working now. What I have gained by meeting President Putin so often, one issue is, or one thing is very clear. When you learn to know each other, you don't have to quarrel that much because you know what the other one is thinking and he knows what the other one is thinking. No use quarreling about that. Trying more to find something to build up. We used to say in Finland that we exercise active stability policy, especially in Baltic Sea area, which is nearby to us. And I referred already to initiative dealing with air safety, which was a great problem, at least according to media, a couple of years ago. A lot of civil traffic going on the Baltic Sea, but a lot of military traffic too. So making sure that there will be no accidents is important. And this initiative, it's going forward. Russia is supporting it, but also NATO is supporting it. And now it's dealt in ICAO. I do very well understand that, well, it's a minor step. But we need minor steps to the right direction instead of having big down steps to the wrong direction like we have had so far.
Okay. Shall I take two more questions, Mr. President?
Yep.
Good. Please.
My name is Ala Olim. I work for the European External Action Service, but I used to work with Lennart Meri here in Tallinn, the Foreign Ministry. Mr. President, you mentioned the need for both dialogue and deterrence, and we know Finland's history that you have been successful in both. In the period leading up to the Second World War, you, in contrast to Estonia, did not give in to the ultimatums which were put forward by Moscow at that time. What are the steps that Finland is taking now to ensure that you will still have a credible deterrence, number one? And number two, do you see any future besides the permanent structured cooperation you already mentioned in your speech that the European Union is doing for NATO and Finland together? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, are any Germans here present? If not, I will tell you. Namely, if we call our reserve to duty, we have 5,000 men more in arms than Germany has if they call their reserve. So I hope this is an answer to what we are doing with our defense. I put it very short how I see the situation. We are building a threshold as high as possible so that anybody can't come very easily. On the other hand, we are creating interoperability. And if we would someday see a theoretical situation which would be a huge war, we are also, I would say, interesting partner. This is so simple how I see the situation.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Arkady Ostrovsky. I work for The Economist. I'm the Russia editor. Finland, as Robert Cooper started saying, has an extraordinary history of relationship with Russia and withstanding great pressures and defending its independence. And many countries looking today at Finland and its historical record as inspiration and example, and the President Mannerheim in particular. And as we speak, I just came back from eastern Ukraine, from the Ukrainian-controlled part of it, and the war continues. There is shelling every day, and Ukraine, as we know, did not fight for Crimea when Russia annexed it. What do you feel are the lessons from the Finnish history of dealing with a more powerful, militarily more powerful neighbor, and how do you see the possibility of solving the problem in eastern Ukraine? Thank you.
First, to your last remark, I think we all agree that, well, we have to meet the Minsk agreement and all the criteria. And after saying this, I admit that we have been saying that for a couple of years. So it's unfortunate that nothing really new has not been found, and maybe there isn't anything to be found. So we are depending on that, whether there is a Minsk agreement or not. I can't see any links between the situation in Ukraine at the moment and the Finnish history. So I am not going to compare them at all. Okay.
I think it's time to thank the President for his...
Thank you so very much.